Catherine, you are muted currently, so if there is anything you want to say before I get started, now certainly would be the time.
Good morning, all. We're glad that you're here with us today, especially all of our speakers. We're ready to go, and we hope you enjoy the next hour, hour and a half, and hearing what our legislators have to say. So thanks for joining us.
All right. So good morning, everybody, and welcome again to the Chamber's annual 2022 State of the State program. While it would have been great to see everyone in person, unfortunately, our current environment has not allowed that to happen. But our hope is that into the future, we will have this as an in-person event going forward. I'm Al Rubin. I'm the current interim CEO of the Otsego County Chamber of Commerce. And again, we welcome everybody. Each year, the Chamber of Commerce here in Otsego County gets the opportunity to engage our local elected officials on our concerns and goals. But most importantly, we get to hear initiatives that all of our distinguished guests have for 2020, for this upcoming year, 2022. The past year, Otsego County economic partners and other leaders within the county have so many works that we have in progress that are set up to attain the many goals that we have for our county, such as building our county's economic landscape, workforce development, and building and retaining population to our region overall. We are very much looking forward to hearing from all of our distinguished guests today. And without further ado, I would be honored to ask Senator Peter Oberacker to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance before we get started.
Al, it'll be my pleasure if you could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator. Okay, so we're going to get moving here because we want to hear as much as we possibly can from all our distinguished guests, as well as the opportunity for question and answer here at the end. So with the busy schedules of many of our guests and other commitments, we are making some adjustments to the schedule. Therefore, we're going to jump right into this with bringing on our keynote speaker. That being said, our keynote speaker today is Congressman Antonio Delgado. Congressman, as you know, I always get a big smile on my face when I'm about to introduce you because I appreciate all the work that you do here for Otsego County, and it's always my pleasure to introduce you. So Congressman Delgado from the 19th Congressional District, whose efforts to build our region and sponsor bipartisan bills to get there is so very much appreciated. Recently, my personal experience with the Congressman around the Made in America, Buy in America initiative has sparked many ideas within Otsego County, with the hope that transformational projects will develop with support from our government to rural areas just like ours. That being said, Congressman Delgado, the Zoom is all yours.
Thank you, sir. Can everybody hear me? I feel like I'm unmuted. We're good to go. Let me start by just saying Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a safe, a healthy holiday season filled with family, friends, and a lot of love. So just want to shout out everybody and send you all very positive energies. I see a lot of friendly faces. I wish we could all be in person. Look forward to that happening again in the near future as we work our way through this pandemic. I do want to thank Catherine Daly. I also want to thank Al. You've been a real partner in me making sure that I'm doing all I can to support our small businesses in Otsego County in particular, as we think about how to meet the challenges that we are consistently facing and have faced now for a good while. I look forward over the next, I guess it's about 10 minutes or so, to sort of walk you through my initiatives, my legislation, the things that I think we can build upon as we now turn the corner on 2021 and head into 2022. I like to start all of my years by meeting with my local advisory committee groups. We have 4 that are bipartisan in nature. So we have healthcare, small business, ag, and veterans locally based committees. Every year, at the top of the year, I meet with these committees, and throughout the course of the year, at least on a bi-monthly basis, we sit down and we have conversations about the ways forward. A number of folks on this Zoom are part of those committees. In my latest committee meeting with the small business folks, there was a lot of concern, rightfully so, about how we are managing through the pandemic in terms of consistency with requirements across the board, as far as masking, as far as the length of time one must isolate or quarantine before returning. What does it mean to say one is fully vaccinated? There are some inconsistencies when you compare, the CDC, for example, with OSHA. And I think a lot of this is causing unnecessary strain on our small businesses. And so it's incumbent upon us here in Washington to be more clear, be more direct, and make sure that we have a unified approach as we navigate this terrain, understanding that it's not necessarily about preventing this spread at this point, although that's certainly top of mind. We also have to get our mind wrapped around mitigating and taking key steps to help us ultimately work our way through this challenges that continue to persist. As a member of the Small Business Committee and the Ag Committee, I've worked very hard over the last year trying to figure out how we can help and do the work of protecting and enabling our small farms and our small businesses throughout the pandemic. Things like making sure that we are not just providing clear guidelines, but true investment in our infrastructure, true investment in our small businesses, true investment in relief packages. All of this is critically important moving forward. And as I look forward into 2022, and the pandemic certainly continues having an impact on our communities and local business owners, it's imperative, it is imperative that we come together across party lines to find common sense solutions and support every resident in New York 19. I know we have a lot of work still to do to grow our economy, to empower our small businesses, to address the workforce shortage challenges I would note that predate, sadly, even the pandemic, particularly when you think about our workforce shortage challenges. Your input to these your input to these problems is critical for me. As my first job, as I've stressed time and time again, is to listen to each and every single one of you, no matter your party affiliation, understanding the needs of the community across the board, how we best can come together and get things done. I do want to focus on a few of my efforts that I was able to start off in 2021 and certainly want to build upon in 2022. A big focus of mine last year was to continue to work on a bipartisan basis to pass legislation and create programs that help our local communities and their respective economies recover from COVID, to fix our nation's infrastructure. I'm hoping that you can still see. I just got a notice saying that I have unstable internet connection. I'm hoping I'm still connected here. And rebuild, good, thumbs up, and rebuild American manufacturing. Those are really the big ticket items that I really tried to focus on throughout 2021. While these were broad, overarching goals, the legislation that we passed and signed into law, along with the relief and support programs we created, brought resources directly to the most rural of our communities throughout the district. I want to start with the American Rescue Plan, which really was designed to make sure that we had a robust, bold investment in our communities as we met this once in a lifetime pandemic. Throughout the year, small business owners and communities were supported by this legislation, which I voted to pass, and it was signed into law in March of 2021. At the beginning of the year, I met with Otsego County officials and leaders to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and how this plan would be able to distribute funds to our communities directly. The recovery package included, as I'm sure many of you know at this point, my Direct Support for Communities Act, which established a formula for direct aid to local governments of every size, delivering $130.2 billion to counties and municipalities all across the country, and specifically over $400 million directly to local governments in New York's 19th congressional district. Otsego County, $11.5 million, not including the direct support that'll go to towns and villages therein. I know that some of that money was distributed throughout 2021, more to come in 2022 to use for offsetting the loss of tax revenue, to use to invest in broadband, to use to invest in infrastructure. We tried to create the program so that there's broad eligibility use for those of you on the ground with situational awareness who best know how to use these funds. The package also included the Small Business Relief Accessibility Act, my bill. This legislation would put money in the hands of local partners like the Chambers of Commerce, SBDCs, and other entities to conduct outreach on SBA programs. Thinking again about cooperation, collaboration, trying to utilize our local institutions, nonprofits on the ground to maximize the value proposition when it comes to the investment dollars that are coming from the federal government. That to me is the best way government can work. When it can use our tax dollars smart, wisely, invest in our local communities, but then empower those communities to make decisions based on their respective situational awareness. Throughout the pandemic, local governments and nonprofit organizations have proven they are the best resource to help mom and pop shops, family farms, independent producers survive. So let's empower those local governments. This bill ensures small businesses can seek help from local partners that they know and trust when trying to access federal programs to stay afloat. Second big point, infrastructure. Infrastructure. Big issue that we've talked about for decades as a country. Our economy and business cannot thrive unless they have updated infrastructure, whether it's roads, whether it's bridges, whether it's our piping with water, whether it's ports, whether it's high-speed internet, right? These are the things that we know collectively we need to have in the 21st century to build upon. For years, folks in Washington have been talking about investing in our infrastructure, and it kind of turned into empty political rhetoric after a while. But finally, we were able to come together on a bipartisan basis and get something done. And as a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I'm very, very proud to be a part of that process. We voted in November on a bipartisan basis to send this bill to the president's desk, and it was signed into law, and it delivers. It delivers for New York, and it delivers for our upstate communities. It invests in roads and bridges and highways and public transit and broadband and more. Here we are at the state of the state in New York. There are more than 1,700 bridges and over 7,000 miles of highway in poor condition. And I know that in Otsego County, up to 80% of roads are in disrepair. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is the single largest dedicated bridge investment since the construction of the interstate highway system. It is historic. Based on formula funding alone, New York expects to receive more than $1 billion for federal aid highway apportion programs and nearly $2 billion for bridge replacement and repairs. It is also expected that New York will receive $9.8 billion over 5 years to improve public transportation across the state. Under the bipartisan infrastructure law, New York will receive a minimum allocation of $100 million to provide broadband coverage across the state. I want to pause on that. We know how critical broadband is for our communities, but it's helping our small businesses, our farmers, our young people, our seniors connect with telemedicine. It is imperative. This is a massive, massive investment. And we expect this investment to provide access to at least 186,754 New Yorkers who currently lack it. New York will also receive billions to address lead pipes throughout the state and millions more to update and repair our airports. And to this end, I want to note on the water infrastructure piece with PFAS and lead piping, I was pleased to see that the bipartisan bill also includes my Clean Water for Rural America Act. This is a bill that I introduced that was included in the bipartisan agreement. This bill increases authorization levels for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, technical assistance grants for rural small municipalities from $25 million annually to $75 million annually. Big increase there for our rural communities. I also want to note that the historic package includes, and is now law, my bill, the BuyAmerica.gov Act, which helps ensure that our tax dollars are spent on American goods that create and sustain American jobs. It directs the General Services Administration to establish a website, BuyAmerica.gov, to collect and display information about each request by a federal agency to, quote, bypass American laws, buy American laws. As some of you are aware, when we engage with our federal agencies to build out roads and bridges, to have these contracts, there are oftentimes waivers that they can seek where they say, we don't have the ability to buy America. We don't have the capacity. We need to go outside of our borders to fulfill these contracts. We don't have enough transparency to understand how those waivers are sought and what the basis for those waivers are. And I think, as we all know, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And so the focus here is to make sure that we see the basis for these waivers. Because if you're gonna not buy American, we need to know why. And it needs to be clear to the American people. So from creating good paying jobs and making our roads safer, to cleaning up our water and expanding broadband access, this infrastructure package is a big deal. It is a big deal, and it should have a major impact on our communities across New York, and certainly all throughout New York 19. Finally, I want to just talk a little bit about the third leg of the puzzle here, as far as what we focused on in 2021 and what we want to continue to build upon in 2022. That's rebuilding American manufacturing. It's a good jump off point from the last bit I talked about with the BuyAmerican.gov Act. We have to double back down on creating American jobs, local, regionally based jobs, manufacturing clusters in our backyard. If COVID has shown us anything, and it's shown us a lot, is that we don't have enough manufacturing at home. We rely too much on foreign production, foreign manufacturing. And we've got to make sure that we do more to incentivize and to empower our communities at home. And so this is the work that I'm trying to build upon. And I've tried to do that specifically right in your backyard, right in Otsego County. I brought back, going back to October of last year, we brought together local manufacturers, the Coalition for a Prosperous America, Otsego County Chamber. Al Rubin was on the panel. We had Corning, Suni Oneonta, a number of individuals and local leaders came together at Cooperstown BAT. I want to shout out Tim and Connie Haney for hosting, always being wonderful hosts, talking about how we can push this bill that we've introduced called the Made Here Act. This is bipartisan legislation, once again, bipartisan, to advance American manufacturing and create American jobs. The idea behind it is to create a grant program that would invest in what are called clusters of manufacturing opportunities. So whether it's educational, workforce development programs, whether it's local small businesses, whether it's making sure that we have state actors and local actors engaged, or chambers of commerce, what are we doing to see how those businesses that work along a supply chain at different points or work within the same industry can better collaborate, can better cooperate together, and figure out how to grow their capacity and expand their capacity collectively. So it's identifying those opportunities that might be small in scale now, but if we can invest and encourage cooperation and partnership across the sector, they can expand and create more jobs along the way. This is the Made Here Act. Very excited about this legislation, and we're going to continue to push this bill all throughout 2022. And on that point, it's a part of my plan. I call it the 4x4 plan. We introduced this at the end of last year. We know that there's inflation. There are costs that people are experiencing in the grocery stores. We're experiencing for a good while at the gas pump. There's heating cost issues. There's supply chain issues that in many respects are born of the pandemic. When you had the world shut down, you had a lot of production slow down, both domestically and internationally. And so you also saw prices come down during that period to offset that. And as we've slowly tried to come back, production has lagged, to be expected, behind demand. And so we've got to figure out how to continue to increase that production and undo the bottlenecks that we're experiencing both domestically and internationally. Whether that means clearing up our ocean shipping dynamics, right? Where we're seeing a lot of our foreign trade partners decide that they'll dump their products on our borders, but then won't take back full carriers. They'll just ship back empty carriers because it's faster for them to get the carrier back on their end and pump out more goods to us. We got to stop those practices. It's not helpful for us at all. And it creates increased pricing. So that's why I brought together a group of folks to introduce my 4x4 plan. And one of the pillars of that plan, in addition to my Made Here Act, is the Ocean Shipping Act. The Ocean Shipping Reform Act would prevent foreign countries from taking back empty containers from our shores and do a number of other mandated reciprocal trading practices to help clear up that bottleneck that so many of our folks are experiencing in the supply chain side. So when you combine this type of legislation with the infrastructure investment, which would bring goods to the market a lot faster on our roads, through broadband, and through our bridges, and through our ports, and you combine that with Made Here legislation to invest in our communities at home and create more American jobs, you can start to see the effect of making sure that we can lower costs and deal with some of our supply side issues. This is my focus. This is my focus as we move forward all throughout 2022. I'm excited about the work. There's no doubt a challenging period that we are going through, but I believe that we can continue to meet the moment collectively. I encourage us, as I try to do every single day, and I'm reminded by this and inspired by this, by the community I represent at home, all of you. We've got to put this partisanship, extremism stuff to the side. We've got to have common sense solutions. We got to put country first, and we got to make sure that we're understanding the depth of the problem that we're in right now. Going with eyes wide open, come together, show compassion, understanding, and have a commitment to be better to each other across the board. And I'm inspired by the communities that I represent because I've seen it day in and day out, from Otsego County to Dutchess, up to Rensselaer, back down to Sullivan, and everything in between. We are able to do more. And I know we can do more because I've seen us do it every single day. So I want to thank you all for your engagement. I want to thank you all for your respective roles, across the community and your own leadership. I'm excited to continue to work with each and every one of you over the course of this year. I feel optimistic about what's to come. And I look forward to working with each and every single one of you as we now make our way into 2022. Thank you again for having me this morning. Again, I want to wish you all very well, sending you all a lot of love, and please stay safe and stay healthy. God bless.
Thank you, Congressman Delgado. All right, so moving on, as I stated earlier, a lot of our elected officials are just all over the place trying to make a difference. So I know that they're working real hard. So a few have had to get off of the State of the State, but I just wanted to touch on a few things before we move on. So Senator Oberacker put a message into the chat, and I think I'm just going to touch on that real quick. And then it's my hope that anyone does have any questions for him based on what's in the chat and what I throw out there, please reach out to his office directly to have any of those questions answered and concerns you might have. But the major point that Senator Oberacker wanted to make was Bill S5403, which is being moved to the Economic Development Committee, which creates a 6.85% tax credit for small businesses of 100 or less employees. So that's a pretty important thing, certainly in our region overall and Otsego County. So please, we'll get that message out from a chamber standpoint, and let's help connect the dots to have people connect with that program, okay? I always do enjoy attending events with Senator Oberacker. A business person himself. Our dialogue on how the state of New York can be a more business-friendly environment is a clear goal that we and many others have, certainly many of the people here on this call today. Also, who had to leave today is Assemblyman Salka. Assemblyman Salka, also someone that attends many of our events. He's from the 121st District. His insights and input are always appreciated. And there's no question that Assemblyman Salka is committed to growing the area that he serves. So also, if there are any specific questions for anyone that falls that anyone had for Assemblyman Salka, certainly reach out to his office as well. And I know that he'll be there to answer those. Knowing that Assemblyman Tague also has to get off the call by 10:15 today, I'm going to move right on to him. Okay, so Assemblyman Tague of the 102nd District, a dynamic speaker. We appreciate the work that he does for our region, supporting our business and farming community, a large focus, and always there to help us all navigate through the always changing state policies. We know when Assemblyman Tague gets up there for us that we have a strong voice in Albany. That being said, Assemblyman Tague, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, Alan, I just want to say thank you to you and Catherine. You folks do a tremendous job, not only during this event every year, but for the Otsego County Chamber and our business people and our community. So just wanted to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to all the folks that are on today. I'm not going to mince any words. The state of our state is deeply concerning right at the moment, not just our state, but our nation. And as the minority ranker of the Agriculture Committee in the State Assembly, I am troubled what is on the horizon for our farmers. And to say that is, especially in rural upstate New York, our economies are driven by agriculture, whether it's direct or indirect. And I'll give you a perfect example. In my small home county of Schoharie, there are about 30,000 residents. There's a direct or indirect economic impact in Schoharie County of about $30 to $50 million yearly. So agriculture is very important to the rural upstate economy. And never before has there been less certainty as to whether the agriculture industry will be able to persist as we know it today and into the coming decades. A lot of it has to do, not only, but a lot of it has to do with the proposed lowering of farm labor overtime threshold. Over the last several months, I've made it a priority to make the voices of our farmers heard by the Wage Board, and they have united in opposition against this proposed reduction like I've rarely seen before. Many of you know working on a farm is unlike working in any other field, as the work it demands of laborers changes constantly. It's based on unpredictable weather events and other natural occurrences. That aside, farms do not operate like any other business. And let's use a restaurant, for example, where an increase in their labor costs can be offset by an increase in prices. Our farmers are price takers, which mean the prices they sell their products for are set by the processors and the distributors. Those prices, bear in mind, are affected by a national market and forces and competing, and also it has competing farms in other states, which are usually able to more easily meet these price demands due to their lower overhead, tax, and regulatory expenses. New York's agribusinesses have long been at a competitive disadvantage compared to farms elsewhere in our country. But this proposal threatens to potentially regulate them completely out of existence. Those of you that may know anything about Farm Credit East has calculated that the total cost of lowering this overtime threshold to 40 hours, coupled with minimum wage raises, would result in a 42% increase in labor costs for our farms. This, of course, would be daunting for any business in any industries. But for farming in particular, the unique nature of the work required to operate an agribusiness could make this the death knell. While the governor has proposed tax credits to alleviate this impact, it would be nothing more than a temporary Band-Aid and of little help to farmers who depend on their continued cash flow to keep their operation running. We cannot let this proposal stand, and I will continue to fight in every capacity I can. We are also continuing to advocate for the passage of my New York Farm Resiliency, Food Security, and Rural Poverty Initiative Bill. This comprehensive legislation assists farmers and families by providing both farmers and food banks with funds to improve their infrastructure and equipment while providing for the state purchase of farm goods for food banks. It would also assist disabled and veteran farmers in establishing or maintaining their farms. Perhaps most notably, it would create state-level incentives for the opening of meat and dairy processing facilities. It would be open to small farmers, something that we have needed in New York State for a very, very long time. Aside from concerns related to agriculture, I want to reassure you that I will continue to fight for our small businesses and against the one-size-fits-all mandates and tax increases that stifle their ability to succeed. Our conference's Inflation Relief and Consumer Assistance Plan is a vital piece of legislation that would deliver wide-ranging relief to families who have seen prices skyrocket at the grocery store, at the gas pumps, and nearly everywhere else throughout this last year. It will eliminate sales taxes on dozens of everyday items for a 2-year period of time, including fuel. This legislation would help consumers make ends meet despite rising inflation and have more money to put back into our local economies. We're also prioritizing the expansion of broadband like never before. As you heard the congressman speak earlier, this is an initiative that we are all working on. So we are prioritizing the expansion of broadband, and it is clear that a reliable, speedy internet connection is no longer a luxury in 2022, but a necessity. Our expansion and access plan would overhaul the current new New York broadband process and allow local governments to work together and design regionally based plans that meet their needs to provide internet service to all their residents. It would also provide financial assistance to help low-income residents get connected, expand 5G coverage in underserved areas that desperately need it, and assist in establishing last-mile lines for residents. By getting more people connected, we will be able to provide more educational and training opportunities to our children, expand the reach of our local farmers, artisans, and craftsmen, and help people stay informed about what's going on in their communities. And speaking of the stakes we face as a state this year, I don't mean to alarm you, but to inspire you. Inspire you all to join me in taking action on behalf of the small farms and businesses that make upstate New York this unique place that we all know and love. Saying that, I am encouraged by how many members of the community and our government are here today to address the challenges facing New York in this coming year. So I want to thank you all for your continued work to make New York the best place to live and work that it can be. And I apologize, Alan, I know Mr. Miller's probably going to follow right behind me, but we're in Albany and we're in session and we have committee meetings, but I just want to thank everybody. And, you know, I want to commend Congressman, the congressman earlier mentioned about working together. That is what is needed. We need to work together bipartisanly, and we need to get things done. We need to deliver for the people. So God bless you all. I'm honored to be here this morning, and thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Tague, and that will lead me directly into bringing on Assemblyman Miller of the 102nd District. So I'm 101st District. I'm sorry, Assemblyman Miller. I've personally enjoyed working with Assemblyman Miller on projects. His focus and willingness to engage with our organization over the past year has just been phenomenal. Attending our events, one of our events led directly to him approaching us on a project that he had in mind that we've all been working on. And we put together a group and we've been focused on innovation and incubator space and creating jobs and trying to retain and build our population base here in the county. So cheers to Assemblyman Miller for running with the ball on that and bringing us together. And that being said, his focus on creating and retaining jobs and growing our population is definitely a strong goal for Assemblyman Miller, and I look forward to working with you into the future, sir. So that being said, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Catherine. Al, I guess you took all my thunder, so did Chris, so it's going to be pretty easy. Just want to thank everybody for being on this call. I'm going to take it just a little different way. I'm just not going to talk about the state of the state. I'm going to give you a little report card on what we've been doing since our last call. What we look for is people who are doers out there. And, we've located the doers here in Otsego County by everyone who's on this call. But from the last call we had, there was a lot of issues on employment. Nobody can find employees here. What the employers are asking for, new businesses, what have you. So we took the ball, we ran with it, and we put together a group of a small group to start with. Was Al Rubin and Mark Sagino, and we met with them just to throw some ideas around at a cafe in Cooperstown. I believe it was back on October 6th or close to that. On what you guys need out there for help, for employee recruitment, retention, incubator type of space and whatever. So we've taken this idea and we've grown it into a larger group, which we've had SUNY Oneonta, SUNY Delhi. We've had Jody Zagravinsky from Otsego Now there. We've invited Hartwick. We've had other people attend some of the meetings to see where we can go with this. And one of the things that we've talked about and we've really identified is incubator space. I know Jody's got a great proposal out there with Otsego Now on what they're looking to do in Oneonta, and we want to expand on that to help the small businesses. And I know this group has really worked very, very hard on that. And now we're to the point where, I've gone out and we've met with ARC. We've had meetings with Bassett Hospital on their recruitment and retention of the CNAs, HHAs, LPNs, RNs, in what that industry needs. We've already met with IOXIS on their innovative strategies here and how this all connects together. So that's one thing that we're working on. And I think that's the biggest state of the state issue that we have here in Otsego County. It's to find employees, is to help the employers and to help us move into the 21st century and how we're going to create wealth and not just manufacturing jobs. Wealth's going to be created, and we can all sit right here in our offices and we can all create and maintain global businesses right here in Oneonta, Cooperstown, Lawrence, Chenevas, anywhere throughout the county. And that's where we need to move. And that's where I know we found some shakers, and all of us here are looking to do the same things. So that's what we've been doing the last 6-8 months. We've met with ARC, we've met with Bassett, we put this group together. It's a great working group, and I'm going to be meeting with SUNY Oneonta leadership the next few weeks on how we can tie the colleges in here. And at this point, I know I can't ask the other guys to speak on this, but I'd like to set up another Al with the whole group here and just show them where we are with this. But I think that's the biggest part of the state of the state. The congressman's talked about broadband. This is all part of it. The ag community, this is all part of it. We've been visiting feed mills, trying to put all this data together and come up with a good path of how we do things. And I think it's a very exciting time here in Otsego County. And I know coming off the COVID pandemic, there's going to be a lot of opportunity here. And that's why I wanted to take this a little different way. I just wanted to tell you where we are and what we're doing. I know we can talk about other state issues, but everything that affects us right here in Otsego County, that's the state of the state. So I'll stop at this time, and you can take over.
Thank you, Assemblyman Miller. And again, look forward to working with you into the future. As we move on, as we're seeing here today, a lot of our elected officials and distinguished guests have had to get off the call for their other engagements and commitments that they have. So what I'm going to throw out there is that if you don't have direct contact information for the people that have already spoken that have gotten off the call, I ask that you reach directly out to the chamber and put any questions that you have, concerns or issues, and you have our guarantee that we will not only forward them to the people, but we'll include you in that thread so that there could be a dialogue built between the people that have the concerns or questions that are on this call today, or speaking to other people that are not on the call today that may have those concerns or questions. Because if we can engage the people within this county to try and move things forward, then these types of events are truly a waste of time, in my opinion. So we need to be able to ask those questions, whether they're tough or not, to the people that have the ability to go and fight for us to make the changes that we need to help build our county forward. So I just wanted to put that out there. Please, please make sure that you open up that dialogue. That being said, now would be a perfect time to thank all our amazing sponsors from the Otsego County Chamber members that have allowed us to have the opportunity to make this event a possibility. That being said, our deepest thanks to the Bassett Healthcare Network, Key Bank, Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield, New York Central Mutual, Brooks Barbecue, NBT Bank, NBT Insurance, and last but not least, our lead sponsor for today's event, Community Bank. And here today to say a few words is Community Bank Vice President Paul Wood. Paul, it's all yours.
Thanks a lot, Alan. Thanks, Catherine, and to your Chamber of Commerce team for coordinating this event. Certainly, it was nice to hear about what's going on in Washington and the policy that's being shaped in Albany that affects all of us. And I look forward to hearing from what's going on more locally as well. I can't see everybody's faces. I see 6 tiles, but I saw some names come in. And am happy to know that that there are some people on here who trust us to serve their financial needs here at Community Bank, and those who we do work with. I hope that they appreciate us being able to not only serve their commercial and personal needs at the Community Bank level, but also the range of services that are under the Community Bank system umbrella. The one group for commercial and insurance lines, wealth management for business succession, retirement planning, and other related services, BPAS, who is our retirement planning, design, and administrative team. So we do have a lot of services at the banking level, but also if you have an opportunity to speak to one of our commercial bankers, they'll be able to direct you in other ways that may be able to serve your commercial needs. So with that, you know, nobody likes commercials, so I'm not going to stand much longer between the prior speakers and what's next. So I'll turn it back over to Alan. Thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul and Community Bank for your lead sponsorship today. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, so that leads us on to listening to our local elected officials. I'm going to start off with introducing Otsego County Board Chair David Bliss. David Bliss, District Number 7, leads a diverse group of county board reps who are hardworking and focused on building a strong and sustainable Otsego County. I also know that our business community, again, the same way that I stated that we reach out to our state officials and our national officials, that we truly engage the people on this county board, because right now is the time for Otsego County and the opportunity for us to market and bring people and bring business here to our area. And we will need their support, and they are willing to listen, that I can tell you. So without anything further, I bring on Otsego County Board Chair David Bliss.
Sorry, I didn't unmute. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Catherine, for setting this up. And thank all the other speakers and all of you for attending. First, just to comment on some of the things the other speakers mentioned. Assemblyman Tague and his support for agriculture, that's been really important. I hope that he's successful in continuing with some of his programs there, because agriculture is very important here in Otsego County. You know, our dairy farms numbers are dwindling, but we have more large farms
We're getting a lot of niche agriculture starting up, small farmers producing food and other products locally. So please support those businesses, because more we can keep that locally and to not have to rely on those supply chain issues that Assembly and Delgado mentioned, the more it can help our Otsego County economy. Many of these things have already been mentioned. Broadband, that's one of our biggest initiatives. The biggest issue there is right now we have funding, but we still have that census block data, which creates pockets of underserved areas, and also the regulations that need to be changed at both the state and federal level, so that companies like Otsego Electric, who are doing a great job getting broadband to their customers, can expand and get into other areas that are franchised and they're currently not allowed to go to. Because I know Otsego Electric, as I mentioned, is doing a great job, and they could like to expand and could expand if the legislation was changed to allow them to do so. So just a little shout out to them and the work they've been doing. Bassett, of course, is our biggest employer. We're working with them now on a project for a sim lab that will help training and keep the medical community well trained, and also ties in with our new ambulance service and getting EMTs trained. That ambulance service, much needed. Our volunteers are being overwhelmed now with the training requirements that they have. And although expensive, it's already proven, even on the small scale that our pilot project is going, that ambulance service is much needed, and I think it's going to rapidly expand. Exciting news we have on the economic front. The Senator Schumer recently announced the initiative with Corning down in Oneonta to expand into the medical, expand their manufacturing facility to meet a growing demand for pharmaceutical research and diagnostic products. If we can make that come to fruition, that's going to be a real game changer for the whole county, and particularly Oneonta. And transportation, that's a big item. Senator Delgado mentioned the roads and the infrastructure in terms of bridges and things that are in disrepair. He was a little high in his number. It was about 70% when I came in about 5 years ago. We've done a lot of work to upgrade that. It's significantly lower now, but there's a lot more to be done there. So again, this transportation infrastructure bill will help us there a lot. And Jody Seversky and Otsego now are working. They'll be working on a Corning project. We have a Andela Products is expanding their facilities in the northern part of the county, which is good because that area of the county is also underserved and needs expansion, not only in Oneonta here, but throughout the county. So that's another exciting project. So that's kind of, what I have basically that isn't repetitive to what everybody else is doing, and be happy to speak about it further or answer questions later on.
And I was muted. Same thing you did. Thank you very much, Chairperson Bliss. Appreciate it very much on the update from Otsego County. Moving on to our next speaker, Mayor Ellen Tillepaugh, the Mayor of Cooperstown. Cooperstown Mayor Tillepaugh, as many, have been faced with challenges for a village where tourism is its core. Navigating through this has led to having Mayor Tillepaugh make tough decisions, but always up to the task. Her willingness to listen and support ideas from people in the region has helped not only the village of Cooperstown through these difficult times, but the region as a whole. So I thank Mayor Tillepaugh for that. And Mayor Tillepaugh, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am going to try and share a screen so you can enjoy some images as opposed to just looking at the oops, sorry, went too far. There we go. And thank you, Al and Catherine, for setting this up. Certainly we've moved through this more quickly today with so many speakers having to be committed to other tasks. I did want to note that, for most of you in elected office, the fiscal year begins January. So you are really at the start of your year. the Village of Cooperstown has a June 1st through May 31st fiscal year. So we are 2/3 of the way through our current fiscal year. We have many goals and visions in the village, and we have let them continue to guide us. We had a 2016 comprehensive plan, and just recently, at the end of August and September, we had hoped to have an in-person sort of revisit to that comp plan to make sure we're on the right path. We, of course, with the pandemic, really couldn't do an in-person, so we did a Survey Monkey and got a phenomenal response. So we know that the direction our community is headed is one that's very locally driven by our residents. I will say that this past year, our 21-22 budget is healthier than our 2021, but essentially we were really hit hard by the pandemic. We're a tourism-based industry in the Village of Cooperstown, and it's not just Cooperstown. I expect to hear soon from my new fellow mayor in the county, Mark, but I have always teased Gary, his predecessor, that you know, Cooperstown Baseball World, Cooperstown All-Star Village are all located in Oneonta and really benefit that community's lodging and restaurant and local businesses. Cooperstown Dreams Park is located in the town of Hardwick. I always joke that the Village of Cooperstown is the only one without a actual Cooperstown baseball complex. It's estimated that New York suffered $150 million loss in tourism revenue, and the impact on the Village of Cooperstown was significant. Over the last 2 summer seasons, we suffered close to $1 million in losses from our major funding streams: paid parking, sales tax, and double-day field rentals. $1 million is almost 1/3 of our general operating budget. Fortunately, we could kind of be aggressive and make cuts where we needed. But we have had to delay certain projects. It's important to know that the local sales tax that is shared by Otsego County, $1 million spent on Main Street, Cooperstown generates $363.36 for the village. $1 million spent on our Main Street gives the Village of Cooperstown $363.36. We actually, the city of Oneonta, being a city, gets more money from sales on Main Street, Cooperstown than we do. So contrast that to the millions of dollars in infrastructure that the Village of Cooperstown has to maintain to support that tourism economy and help generate those sales. And the only way we've been able to do that is that we've been incredibly successful in our grant writing capabilities and securing grant funds. And that began, we sort of got the ball rolling in 2016 with a $700,000 Green Innovation Grant project, which began a new look for our downtown and allowed us to replace all our sidewalks and upgrade our infrastructure. We continued that with a $2.7 million federal highway TEP project that continued that look, put in place amenities, uniform street furniture. It extended our street lights to 2 additional blocks. And of course, what's most apparent to many people is the new traffic light and pedestrian crossing signals. Using that kind of positive synergy, the village alone funded a $165,000 upgrade to our downtown municipal park right on our Main Street. And we find this is a vibrant center, and we invested in the relocation of the tourism kiosk brick pavers, and a stage. And throughout the summer, we've had Music on Main performances there. And we also coordinated with our local cultural institution, the Fenimore, for its Keith Haring exhibit, and we had public art. And we plan to be continuing these coordinations with our local agencies. Our infrastructure burden also includes a just completed $8.4 million wastewater treatment plant upgrade. When hundreds of thousands of tourists come, it's important those toilets flush. And this new facility replaced one that was over 40 years old. And it guarantees that Cooperstown, at the headwaters of the Chesapeake River Basin, we're at the headwaters of the Susquehanna, that we will meet all state and federal requirements. This upgrade will protect for decades to come the Susquehanna River, which we all know is a valuable recreational and tourism resource. Over the next couple of years, as you've heard earlier from Congressman Delgado, Otsego County is going to receive $11 million. The village's largest tourism attraction, the Hall of Fame, is receiving $4.7 million from the federal shuttered venue operators grant. Unfortunately, the village of Cooperstown, with a 2019 population estimate of 1,754, we're defined as a non-entitlement unit, NEU. And the only pandemic COVID funds that were available to the village were in the American Recovery Plan Act. And it's based solely on population. So based on that population, we will be receiving $179,896. We've received half of that amount in July of 2021. I think you can really grasp that that is hardly compensates us, less than 10% of what we lost in tourism revenue. So it's, we had a lot of fiscal pressures, but we doubled down, and we had two overarching goals when we've been doing our budgets the past 2 years. The first is to retain all our employees. We didn't eliminate any positions or furlough any employees. We felt that there was enough hardship without the village reducing our work staff. So we kept everyone fully employed. And our second goal was not to increase taxes, and hopefully the business community appreciates that aspect. In fact, over the past 9 years since I've been on the board, there's been no increase in our tax levy. Our levy amounts to $1.75 million, and that relates to a tax assessment of $5.20 per $1,000 assessment. And I think if you look at neighboring communities and many places, you'll see that's actually a very low assessment for property. Cooperstown sort of has this bad rep as a very, very expensive place to live, but part of that is just some of the property in Cooperstown area is valued well, shall I say. But essentially a $100,000 home you would pay $520 in taxes. So obviously, and federal relief funds and our sales tax, et cetera, these aren't going to really support us. So again, we have, and we appreciate this, we've coupled with the county to help support the trolley system in the village of Cooperstown, which has opened us up to STOA, State Transportation Operating Assistance Funds. And they have, and that program actually has funded the major portion of the trolleys we run. Again, this is for tourism. We have to, Cooperstown's a small village. We don't have a lot of parking. We really use our 3 peripheral lots and transport people to the village core using trolleys. We also have done upgrades and received a DEC grant. So we have EV chargers in place for tourists who come in to park and recharge their electric vehicles. That's part of our commitment to environmental concerns. And this actually was awarded in the prior year, but with the pandemic, we finally had an open house for the Cooperstown Distillery, which the village, with the assistance of Jody and the county, is able to secure 100,000 community development block grant. That was the very first community development block grant that Cooperstown has had, but that 100,000 helped fund a 7,000 square foot supply and storage room at the distillery. And we're really pleased that the distillery chose to headquarter in the village. And let me just move on to some of the other projects that we're undertaking. And I know you all know about our Doubleday field improvements. The upper left there, you can sort of see what we were confronted with a few years ago. We would have tourists come to town and say, now, where's Doubleday? And there was no safe pedestrian access. It was difficult to even see our historic National Register listed 1939 grandstand. And so in 2019, we began the first two phases of our Doubleday project, which include an improved entrance, pedestrian safe pathways, and a nice vista relocation of our Sandlot Kid. We've gotten a lot of compliments on this, and we're seeing a great deal more use. Unfortunately, again, that was a facility that while we were undertaking what's going to be about a $7 million project, we couldn't rent out Doubleday Field once in 2020, and our rentals were reduced in 2021. So we've had reduced revenue in that sphere. Our third and final phase is already underway, and it includes a third base building, and there will be stands in front of it along the third base line. The beauty of this building is it will provide 19 public bathrooms. And I recently made a little plea to the county. We do have so much tourism infrastructure in the village that needs to be supported. And one of the first things that requests we get is, where's the public bathrooms when tourists arrive on our main street? And unfortunately, the local chamber had to remove their public bathrooms. So the bottom line is there aren't any. We have some in our 39 grandstand, but these bathrooms will be totally ADA compliant and accessible, as will the new stands. And this is really important in serving the needs of a tourism industry. And this is what the facility will look like when completed. We are hoping the building should be completed by the springtime. We're in the process of trying to secure more funding for the actual bleachers and the ADA compliance component of that. And we're very pleased that housing, which is a major priority, was in 2016 for our comp plan, is now. We have a major project undergoing right half a block from our downtown, at which it's called Chestnut Crossings, and there'll be 13-unit apartment building built in our downtown. It will have accessible apartments, etc. This is utilizing a property a commercial property that has been vacant for almost 3 decades at the core of the village. And a lot of people didn't even realize the building was there. So we're very excited about that. We're also continuing work at our village hall. We have a major grant that will allow us to upgrade our lift and restore the skylights in this 1896 building. So those are sort of the projects that are underway in the village of Cooperstown. And I appreciate the chance to share all that and present what the goals and visions of our community are.
That's fantastic, Matilda. We're actually very glad that you got to share all that as well. So time was on our side today, and that was good for us. So thank you very much for having that organized presentation for us today. That brings us on to our final elected official who will speak today. But certainly for question and answer, we do have our local officials as well as Assemblyman Miller still on the line. So after our next speaker does speak, at least we can get perspective with any questions we may have on a local level, as well as having Assemblyman Miller here to answer questions that he might be able to regarding state. While we're missing Congressman Delgado, certainly, like I said, let's reach out to him directly, or certainly our office, to connect the dots on those questions you may have. That being said, we move on to our final elected official. Last but not least, Mayor Mark Drenick, newly elected Oneonta Mayor. Mayor Mark has some ambitious goals. He's certainly not afraid to roll up his sleeves and jump into the action and make a difference. I've personally worked on projects with Mark through the pandemic and know him quite some time, and his passion for Oneonta and the region as a whole is just so very clear. The other thing I'd like to say about Mark is his willingness to listen and his expertise in building strong teams to focus on collaboration and moving the needle forward. So that being said, let's introduce Mayor Mark. It's all yours.
Well, thank you, Al. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the Otsego County Chamber, and I'd like to recognize Al Rubin. Am I muted or no? You can hear me. You can hear me. Anyway, I'd like to recognize Al Rubin, who's wrapping up his tenure as interim president and CEO. Al, you've done an amazing job, and I know you're going to be missed in the role, although somehow I feel like we're going to see a lot more of each other. I want to acknowledge Congressman Delgado and all the work you've done to benefit Oneonta and our district since your first days in Congress. My wife and I have been rooting for you. It's really good to have a friend like you in Washington. Senator Oberacker, Assemblyman Salka, Tague, Miller, County Board President Bliss, I am very much looking forward to working with you for the good of the county and of the city of Oneonta specifically. And Mayor Tillapaw, I believe we are this close to getting together. One more person I want to make part of the conversation. We'll see if we can get Mayor Picorni and Destination Marketing too. I've been thinking about this for a while. I want to collaborate on a campaign to attract new residents, a campaign that goes beyond tourism and presents the Cooperstown to Oneonta area as a destination for relocation. I'm on the job now 11 days, and although I'm still waiting on furniture, we have made some good progress. We've established a couple of new committees, community wellness, to address our issues of homelessness, addiction, and mental health, as well as food insecurities, and to adopt a more proactive strategy regarding the next public health concern. It's a big ask, and we're going to be realists as well as creative thinkers, but we will touch some lives. On this and dozens of other projects, we're going to engage voices we haven't heard from, and we're going to be creative. The other new committee addresses economic development, and that's a huge agenda item for me. I've staked my campaign for the office on the goal of attracting new remote working and entrepreneurial residents to Oneonta. To do that, we'll be looking to develop Market Street as an entertainment district. Specifically, we'll be looking to develop public-private partnerships that will help create demographically connected venues that provide social options for 25 to 39-year-olds. And to young families, I'm hoping to build a children's museum with a theme that celebrates the amazing railroad history of Oneonta and its roundhouse. All of this expansion will be anchored by the Foothills Performing Arts Center, a reimagined and refurbished historic Oneonta Theater, and a new transit hub and remodeled garage. Then, on the park side of Market Street, we've got the recent addition of a world-class pickleball court, a tremendously popular new dog park, the continued remodeling of Damaski Field, and ARPA-funded improvements still to come. This is really exciting stuff. Also exciting is the development of the upper floors in downtown, much thanks to the DRI. That includes Springbrook's soon to be reimagined Ford Block and the construction of the lofts on Dietz with more than 6 units of affordable housing and artists' apartments. A really big deal about the Lofts project is Hartwick College's first significant footprint in downtown. And with SUNY Oneonta's new president and his history of having a pro-community investment mindset, coupled with a proactive strategy for public-private partnership, we're going to solve our housing issues, we'll expand the employed population, and bring the community into real partnership with City Hall. With the help and the guidance of the folks around this virtual table, I look forward to these next 4 years, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you better. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And yes, do look forward to working with you here in Oneonta and what Oneonta brings to Otsego County and certainly the region as a whole. So thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is, and we do have time, so any questions that anyone on the call today have, if you could please post them into the chat. We currently have Chairman Bliss, Assemblyman Miller, Mayor Tillapon, Mayor Mark Drenick on the call still. I don't believe anyone else that was any of our distinguished guests are on as well, but those 5 are. So that being said, if anyone has any questions or concerns or anything they want to discuss, now would be the time to put them in the chat. And if you want to direct them to any of those people, or after we read them, if someone wants to jump on it of the people I've mentioned, certainly feel free to do that as well. So now would be the time for that. Okay, so coming in from Cassandra Miller, one of our guests today, Mayor Mark, do you have a strategic plan and timeline for a committee for establishing the entertainment district on Market Street?
That's a great question. So in terms of a strategic plan and timeline, the timeline is going to be obviously provided and directed by the engagement of the private developers that we hope to bring to the equation. At this point, we're really in the beginnings of defining the marketing strategy, the messaging, and we'll be working with partners to begin to get the word out to would-be developers. We've established a committee, the Economic Development Committee, whose first meeting I think is on the 25th of this month. And they will be driving a lot of the conversation and direction around this. Their expectation, my expectation of them, is that they're going to be connective to a lot of community partners. Those include many of the people around the virtual table here today. And others will begin to formulate a strategy that we will share with all that would have an interest. We're going to have a very transparent governance here. And I welcome, I believe that came from Cassandra. Cassandra, I absolutely welcome your input into the conversation as it moves forward.
Very good. There's a few items that have made it to the chat prior to us coming to the Q&A here, and I would like to bring those up. So Dominic Love brings up about broadband infrastructure and how there are still many communities that are underserved. And I know we've talked about broadband, and I know we also have Tim Johnson from OE Connect and Otsego Electric on the call as well here. That being said, Tim, you may be able to answer, or one of our elected officials on the call may be able to answer. What are some of the plans, and how are we looking to work to provide internet services to the communities that are underserved?
Sure, I can answer that. The plans here at OE Connect are we have about 100 miles of new construction coming in 2022, assuming we can get through some of the supply chain issues and labor issues that we're having in terms of bringing crews in to do the work itself. We can't do it all ourselves internally. So we have $7 million that was promised to us back in November of 2020, I'm sorry, mixing up my years, but we still do not have a dollar of that money yet. It should be coming any day, we hope. That'll enable us to purchase most of the materials and get us into some of the hills of the back roads and hills of Otsego, such as Otego areas. That's a big area. Middlefield, a pretty big area, about 10 miles, over 10 miles in Otego. And then a bunch, probably about 15 areas that are under 5-mile extensions. And those are the majority of the construction that'll happen this year. Unfortunately, I think the federal infrastructure package that was just passed in terms of broadband is going to take quite a bit of time to be distributed out. They've delegated or awarded, I guess, indirectly the funding to the states, or directly, I should say, but the states are now putting together programs, I guess, or methods of distribution. New York State's Broadband Program Office was pretty much reduced to one person over the past couple of years as the new New York broadband project was finished. And they're going to have to rebuild that group and get them back up and running to decide how to distribute. I think New York is going to get a minimum of about 200-300 million and perhaps more. So Otsego will be ready. That is Otsego Electric and OE Connect will be ready to bid. I expect that the funding will be made available on a per location basis, perhaps, with better mapping. And that's sort of what the holdup is right now. That and the actual funding itself. It's not clear how the funding will be made available, but if it's made available in a reverse auction, we'll bid, but there's no guarantee that we would win. There are other competitors out there who have bid in the past. And if they bid, it's a reverse auction. So the lower you bid, then the lowest bidder wins. So we have a break-even point that we're well informed of, and we will probably bid to that point or a little bit above it, and then withdraw if we have not won at that point. So hopeful, but I don't see much of that funding coming in 2022. The funding that we should get is from 2020 this year. So, yeah. I hope that helped.
Got it. Hey, thank you very much, Tim. Luisa Montanti, question for Mayor Mark. Mayor, can you elaborate on the Dietz Street building project and what the future occupancy will look like?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. So I'm looking forward to having a sit down with Ken Carney from Carney Development. That's a one-on-one in which we will talk about some specifics around several different issues, including ultimately what we will wind up doing with parking for the tenants there, and also what the strategy is in terms of the folks that are already seemingly anecdotally lining up to become tenants of the building. But what we are looking at, as I understand it at this moment, is somewhere between summer and fall. We should be in a place where I believe it's 62 units, 2/3 of them will wind up being what we would call affordable housing. There's an income verification that's going to be required for those. Another 1/3 of those apartments will be quote unquote artists' apartments. And there's a review committee. Again, I need to sit down with Ken Carney and talk about exactly what the mechanism is for that. But the review committee will be looking at portfolios and a specific connection to an income generation by those folks that are artists. So we'll be looking at a building that will probably be, if not fully occupied, certainly become occupied as we move into the fall and this time of next year. Certainly that's going to make a huge difference to the amount of foot traffic on Main Street, which is going to be nothing but positive for the businesses on Main Street. So we're looking forward to that. But as I have an opportunity to sit down with Ken from Carney Development, I'll have more information. I can tell you, though, that relative to our doing what we hope to do with Market Street, the testimonial of Kearney Development relative to their ease of being able to work in the city of Oneonta is going to be huge. As Oneonta is not really, we're not Syracuse, we're not Albany, we're not Binghamton, we're kind of in the middle of that geographic space. And so making certain that the experience that developers have is a positive one is going to help us out quite a bit.
Very good. And Mayor Mark, keep yourself unmuted. We got another one for you. So apart from, this is from Dorothy Wisniewski, apart from broadband, are there specific plans yet for attracting and retaining the remote businesses you mentioned? As an online business owner myself, I'd like to see resources and community developed around this.
Boy, you and me both. So, yeah, so, I mean, broadband is obviously such a big piece of it, but the strategy is all about marketing. We are going to be targeting through I think, a pretty well-conceived marketing strategy. The folks that will start with alumni of Oneonta's colleges. I'm looking forward to sitting down with Mayor Tillapaw and Destination Marketing and Mayor Pokorny to talk about how we might be able to make a connection to folks who come to visit, who fall in love with the area, because how could they not, as potential folks to become new residents as well, specifically in the city of Oneonta. It's an important marketing strategy that will succeed if we have an asset that we are marketing. And the asset that we are marketing, in my conversations with most folks have agreed, is our quality of life. So we're going to be doubling down on our quality of life. We're going to be creating documented marketable assets that put us in a place where we can be competitive with every other small city within 2 hours of Hudson who has the same idea of attracting people who are both downstate and somewhat experienced with the area to consider relocation. It will be an evolving marketing strategy, and Dorothy, as I know your skill set, I'm going to suspect that we'll be reaching out to you and to others here as well to help us refine that. So I appreciate the question, and hopefully that was something like a good answer for you.
Okay. So right now I see no other questions in the chat. I will take a pause and give just a few more seconds for anyone that does have any questions, concerns, or something to say to put it in the chat so we can address it with our elected officials still on the line. We will move on. Oh, Assemblyman Miller.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about Dorothy's question here, and that's been a large topic of the meetings we've been having here with how we're going to generate wealth, how we're going to have global companies here that are internet companies here in Otsego County and throughout New York State and throughout the whole country, because the way we do things is going to be a lot different as we're used to. And that's been one of the conversation topics with the two colleges. Mark and Al have been there, so is Jody, and that's what we're trying to develop, a strategy and support that we can attract remote businesses to come here to not only Oneonta but Otsego County itself. So, any suggestions you have, please get a hold of my office. I really like to talk to you about a lot of these things. We spend a lot of time in Little Falls with Martin Brabennick's group over there on what they're doing, and please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Miller. So we'll go back down to that countdown again and give just a few more seconds for anyone else that wants to put something into the chat box. All right, so as an old college professor of mine used to say, silence means consent, and therefore I will move on to closing remarks for today. Thanks again to all of our distinguished guests and sponsors for their presentations. Ironically, in 2021, this was my first event as the interim CEO of the Chamber, and today it will be my last. But that being said, there's still so much work to be done here in Otsego County, and I'm not going to be one to sit idly on the sidelines. If there's one thing that I've gained over the last year, knowledge is power and collaboration is key. And when we all put our heads together and we talk about what our goals are or what our barriers are, we realize how much we really do have in common. And so whether that be our economic partners or our elected officials, businesses, and the community as a whole, if we do bring our heads together, we'll be able to create that force to fight and build this economic landscape. And I say it a lot, economic development is a take the gloves off battle. And we need to be prepared for that battle. And it's always my hope that the Chamber is leading the charge to help connect the dots to move us forward. Goals of the Chamber, and I'm sure many of the people on this call, is to build the Otsego County economic landscape, build our workforce, build broadband, create jobs, expand business, and bring in new business. I want to thank all the work of our economic partners that we collaborate with on a regular basis, and that being Jody Zakrevsky and his leadership of the IDA, Michelle Caton and the Small Business Development Center, Cassandra with Destination Marketing, Cade, and all our other county chambers that we look forward to continuing collaborating and working with. Some of the projects that we're focusing on, and certainly looking to pass the torch to the new CEO when that person comes into place, will be projects around industrial hemp and innovation and incubator space and centers, refugee resettlement for the opportunity of building workforce, and of course, diversity inclusion as we try and attract people from all areas that throughout our country, especially densely populated areas where people are looking for a change, and the assets that we have are attractive to bring people here. So we certainly can work on that diversity inclusion piece a bit more. The Chamber, I can say, it's meant to advocate and engage those who can support our business community and on the sensitive issues we face here in New York State. We want to be that voice. Again, I will never sit idly on the sidelines, as we need all hands on deck to move our county forward. So I look forward to the Chamber continuing to lead the charge and doing our part to connect the dots moving forward. I have the utmost faith in our job search committee that the right person will be chosen for this job, and I look forward to working with that person, all of you here today. So thank you very much for everyone's participation, and for a great day. And I look forward to what 2022 brings to us, but it's not going to be easy. So the work starts now, right? Everyone have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Take care.